So to end it out, what would be complete without a short session about drones? So we'll have something about drones at the very end. A late arrival. I just want to say a little bit. Well, it's working okay. I want to say just very quickly about Open Knowledge England. We're starting the local group of the Open Knowledge kind of network, local chat. Open Knowledge is kind of global. There are local groups around the world, as well as there being Open Knowledge International, which is the kind of original NGO that does something all over the place, hence international. And we're bringing up an Open Knowledge England. It's kind of been happening over the last on and off last years, but I'm heavily involved. Joe here is helping, Nick, Yeba, and others. So if you're interested, I don't know if Nick's on the way in, if you wanted to get involved in any way, we're really interested in people, and it's very informal at the moment. And we're a local group of the Global Open Knowledge Network. I just want to kick off by saying a little bit about why we exist and what the vision is for open knowledge, at least England, and open knowledge generally, which is, and this is one that's developing. I think it's Open Knowledge England, but it's quite a bold vision now, which is that all public information is open and created and innovators are recognised. Okay? And first of all, just say on public information, I mean everything. I don't mean government information. I mean all the information that can be legitimately given or sold to other people. So I mean all software, all movies, all music. That's the vision. All research, all innovations. That's okay. And I therefore add the second part of that. Sorry. It's okay. So that's why I also have the second line, because there's a risk that when you say stuff like that, people immediately put in what can unfortunately be called the freetard camp. I think unfortunately came from Mr. Orlowski in the Register many years ago, which is like, you just think, wouldn't it just be beautiful, right? And I'm not in that camp. What I think is that, in fact, by doing this model, and I'll talk in brief about how you do, which is that you have to have another way then to fund a lot of information other than the current model, which is around monopoly rights. You also have lots of government funding, by the way, people don't talk about that much. The two ways we fund the creation of information today is government and monopoly rights. That's the main way we do stuff, right? And when I say I don't just mean like government information, I mean like government funding medical research. Probably the biggest area of information creation in the world is medical research. You look at like the literature and the amount that gets published, the amount of money in it, it's huge. And government funds about half of all medical research, at least in communist countries like the United States. Just slipping that in there. So my point is that even countries which are really not kind of in any way like that inclined, and this isn't often associated with, it's not a socialist idea in that way or anything like that. Funding information is normal. It's what governments do because it's this special good, right? We all get that. And I just want to say, so every information open means freely available to everyone. So I just emphasize, though, that also creative innovators that recognize supported. And this would require quite a big change. It would involve the government raising a lot more money, not necessarily, by the way, government choosing what to fund. This is a world in which it is not a government bureaucrat who decides what pop music gets made next year. What it would be is government might raise the money through some kind of levy scheme or other, and it would involve that being distributed, for example, based on use. I just emphasize this is a big vision and this is what we're up to. And I just want to mention how the hell would we get there, right? That isn't where we are today. And there's two ways, right? There's basically top down, which is you change government policy, right? You've got to get the government to go and collect and provide funding for open information and eliminate monopoly rights. That's what you need to do. And you replace monopoly rights, by the way, for those something called remuneration rights, which we already kind of have. You don't just get rid of it. These are ideas around for the last 10 or 15, 20 years. And on the bottom up, so you get together cooperatively to fund open information and make it ourselves, all the open software, open data. The thing I do want to communicate to people, though, that is important, is this won't cut it. Open business models that we get excited about will only ever, unfortunately, fund a very small proportion of the information we want to create. So, these are amazing. We get very excited about them, but they're actually quite limited. They are important and exciting, but fundamentally, if you really wanted to do open information at scale, you need the government. You need someone who can collect money and solve the free rider problem, because otherwise, people just kind of free ride. It's very difficult to fund like big stuff. How would you fund a $100 million movie or a new drug that costs 100 million to make or discover? So there's no real way but the top down. We need to change government policy over time. And I just want to say, this is on the scale, this is the analogy of the environmental movement. Just the environmental movement spent the last 50, 60 years transforming how we treat how we treat the physical environment. We haven't always succeeded, but we've made a lot of progress. That's what we're doing for information environment in the 21st century. And so this comes to what open knowledge, England at least does, which means to change minds and change policy on the top-down route. We need to engage in advocacy, evangelism, and activism. And we need to change mentality. We need to create sustainable organizations, movements. On the bottom up, we create open material directly. We get together, we make open databases, we run we do demonstrators and pilots. So I'm just going to I just want to set this out because that doesn't exist, I think, as the coherent vision yet in the way the environmental movement had a vision of how we treat the environment. There isn't yet. You go around and go, are you into open? Like if people just look at you with a blank stare. If I say, are you into environmentalism? You know what I'm talking about, right? If I say, do you think we should have a sustainable planet? You go, yeah. If I say, do you want an open information age? You go, what does that mean? It's not, we don't have a shared even agreement about this. And that's why I'm going through this right here at the beginning, because that's what we're up to. That is what we're up to. And that's what the question of power, wealth, politics of information age is around this question. So get involved. Come and join in. There's 3 areas, particularly policy and advocacy, events and outreach, and information and insight, which is like building stuff. Events outreach like tonight, and policy and advocacy, all kinds of stuff. And finally, now that Irina is here at the back, I want to say that what we need, obviously, at the beginning of any movement is a vanguard. And there are all kinds of amazing places where that's already happening, by the way. From Wiki, you can look at other groups, we have here Right to Research Coalitions, all kinds of groups doing fantastic work. But one of the things is, I think, at least open knowledge, and generally is creating some leadership. And so one of the things I'm doing as a community member, kind of unofficially now that I'm non-executive, but I'm starting up with ERA, and it's going to, the first session of it will be 10th to 12th of June. Anyone can sign up. I didn't put up the URL, but I should put it that, leaders.rufuspolitt.org at the moment, because I haven't found quite the right URL. But the Open Knowledge Leaders Program is kicking off in June, and I really invite you to come register and participate. We're going to be limited to about 30 people. We're going to run it. There's going to be one in-person workshop here in London, then it's going to run over several months, go to a couple of hours classroom virtually each week on the weekend. But come and join the Open Knowledge Leading Program if you want to help create that open information age. Now with that, I'm going to get my great pleasure to welcome Paul up here, Paul Morphy from GDS, and previously leader of all things kind of open in the UK government, to tell us a bit about, kind of give us some updates. Yeah. And I might play a role here of interlocutor, and also possibly occasionally, interactive website for. Okay. So thanks a lot, and welcome tonight.
Well, I'm really glad to be here. Right. So I think open knowledge has been a big part of the drive on the open data side for a long time, and certainly I've personally got a lot out of just coming along to meetups back when you were in King's Cross way. So fabulous venue here. I'm really pleased to be here, and I think the idea of an interlocutor is quite a good idea. So it's really nice. So I just give you a bit of a story about what's changed and what I'm up to in government and why it's changed. I think if I go back a year or so, you're right, I was looking after open data, but also set things around policy reform, about open policy making in government, cabinet office. And GDS was doing its thing, it was great. And I think what's happened in the same way that it feels like open knowledge is going, okay, what has changed, and what sort of moment of reflection of going, what's different? I think there were sort of 3 big lessons for me from the work that we did, particularly on the data side. And things moved around. I brought some of my data teams over to a digital service. That's not particularly cool. The 3 things I think we learned was that, first of all, government's been doing great analytical work for a long time. You go all the way back before government was really government to see great work from economists, statisticians, and others. But at the same time, I was seeing opening up data from across government, and I was seeing people doing stuff with data that my analysts that I used to look after in the Cabinet Office, there were a fabulous bunch and many of them totally on this mission. But if you go back in the day, they didn't even know that that sort of stuff was possible. We didn't have the IT that meant they could even access some of the basic tools. They didn't have the coding skills to access the languages required, and we're behind the game. So we on the sort of skills and capability of using modern data science, we weren't in the place that we needed to be. The second thing was that we've been doing all this stuff on open data, great, but it always felt to me like a pretty surface level thing, a strangely human endeavor, right? The way in which the data was held in government systems, in contracts, data horribly mixed up with services. The state of our data infrastructure made the data was really hard to produce, and particularly when you're thinking about building platform digital services. It wasn't good enough for that, and it hadn't been good enough for the analytical work, but I think we just figured that that was the way that the world was, and what we should do about it. So trying to fix our data infrastructure in government seems to be like doing the hard work to try and make the innovation easier down the way. And the third thing was that I think we had a network around open data, but on data more broadly, we didn't have that cut. We didn't have the normal government processes that you need in order to get stuff done in a horrible bureaucracy, right? We didn't have the set of ministers that were going to make a collective decision around that. We didn't have the infrastructure, and we didn't have some policy. And as the world's changed so much and so quickly, there are a number of places where we just need to do better at that. And I'll talk a bit more about various some legislation stuff, but also some of the about data science people coming forward with propositions like really eager, amazing analysts going like, oh my god, I can do this stuff, right? Yeah. And then going, look, and I can do this. I think it's legal. Right? And it's like, right? Because that doesn't feel appropriate. And trying to think, okay, so just because we can do it, should we do it? As these tools become more powerful and the data becomes available, particularly the way in which data is just, we can do more things with it. So they were the sort of things that led to this data program. So I've got a set of data leads, director generals, serious directors and others across government and big agencies going, okay, let's try and shape this as a program. Open data is still a core part of that for sure, but some of our attention is going back onto our internal process. How do we use it? How do we get the data in a state so that we and others can use it, which is also, of course, the secret feedback loop that will make the open data better. It's like actually getting government to use it properly. And that we've got the right policies, procedures, and processes in place to use it. Yes, we use it, we use more of it, we've got data closer to decision making, but we do so in a way that feels more appropriate given the power of these tools and the danger of not doing the right thing.
So one thing, if I'm getting one thing that I suppose I'd ask is, so one aspect, the early aspect of the data program was kind of get, and certainly open data was get material out there.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things I've sensed, and I may put up, I put it up here. I'm just trying to find it. Is the way that what's interesting is intersection. There's an external aspect, and I think there's one in here. There's an external aspect, and one I particularly like. I think I'm going to find it here. There we go. Showing up. What I love is this story about the way that open data was then used inside government. One thing I'm getting that maybe the kind of thread is that open data isn't just external, it's also been transforming government's ability to use it. But a big obstacle there is a lack of internal capacity. And the other thing I guess that I wanted to ask out of that is data quality. I think one of the things, if you like, there was phase one of open data is, give us the data raw, give it to us now. And in a certain sense, one of the things now is kind of quality.
Right.
I mean, one of the things I don't know if I've got it here. The data dash would have find it. I'll have to find it in a different one. But I don't. Do I have it here? Data dashboards. Yes. This is a bit of a shocking kind of example of quality. It's going to load for me in a moment. But this sense of government spending being slow, heroic, and booting itself up. But this question, how do you think we can drive quality both inside government, outside?
Let me give, so one of the things that some of the, this is the...
So this is kind of the ability to publish the spelling data they're supposed to, and this is this 8-column CSV format, and how many of them in 2,394 files, I don't think they have a single one that complies with their simple standard, which is a CSV file with 8 columns. So it's kind of like, that's
0%.
Yeah, 0%. Which is, I don't think, and just to be clear, I don't think it's criticism, like having published information inside open knowledge, I actually know it's much harder than you think to do something repeatable, reliable, and with a team.
Let me give you an example. If you look up country.register.gov.uk, right? So one of the things is, and this was
kind of master.
Right, and this is sort of the work which went on with Tom Loosemore, Paul Downey, going, hold on, how do we get out of this mess?
Good quality data.
It's like actually, instead of, ironically, in a way, when everyone's talking big data, show it in a big data, it's like actually going back to where is data minted, where is data created and provided, and almost going back to this sense, and Paul talks quite a lot about thinking around minimum viable data sets, right? So yes, you've got your database that tells you lots of things, but strip it back, and stopping this process of data being duplicated around the system and around different departments. We did some early work with the sort of prototype stuff with the Food Standards Agency. Sit downstairs, they've got their systems, of course they do, and on their system they've got the list of businesses and local authorities and countries and addresses, all of which they sort of hold in themselves. They might originally have got from somewhere in a sort of bulk data transfer or download or something, but it's sort of, or more frequently, it's like just on free text entry, right? And it's like, the 14 different ways of spelling Scotland or something, house register on a bit of a form that really should be UK. It's a classic example. We all see this. So it's actually the idea of okay, you have that in your database, but go back to the basics. What do you really do? What's your mission? And for Food Standards Agency, it's that green thing you see in the window with the 1 to 5 star stuff. And really, we're trying to get to the place of, particularly through the registers work, of a place like the Food Standards Agency, pulling in the data on addresses, pulling in the data on businesses, pulling in the data on whatever, and then providing as a service their 1 to 5 star data. With those common identifiers that mean this stuff can be linked, which starts to get you, let's repair the data at source, rather than, if you're lucky, cleaning it all up and using it at the point of use, which we do again and again and again, expensively, though of course the tool become more and more available. And so if you look in the country scene, it's a fabulously boring thing, right? And right, it's like, but it's the most radical thing I think I've ever worked on.
It reminds
right? And and the thing is, there's been Foreign Office has held a list of countries forever, right? But we found 14 just on gov.uk, different departments, some from the same department, saying, but they've all got different numbers of countries in them. Right? It's like, what's going on? It's like, our needs are different. It's like, well, hold on.
I got you. And it's like, we have it on the Open Data Index, the kind of classic debate over Taiwan, like what counts as a country?
Kosovo.
Kosovo is a country. But just one question. So that's really great. So again, there's a kind of almost technical architecture. I'd love to talk to you more about it, because as I said, actually links into the kind of core data sets, data packages stuff that we've been doing over here. But one thing I wanted to bring you up to policy side, you've got this data sharing consultation at the moment. Do you want to tell us just, I know a little bit, but tell...
For sure. So, it's sort of long-running saga in many ways, going back a long time from when governments previously said, well, in the Coroners and Justice Bill, well, can we just share everything? And Parliament, with probably some good foresight, said, I don't think so. And took that part of it out. And so it's a question of, it's a little bit linked to the broader technology thing, but not really. It's got a common problem. What's appropriate for government departments and other bits of the public sector? What's appropriate for them to share as data? Because I think going back to your original talk, it's like when we say open data, and we've done loads of things and been inspired by open knowledge. I think the sense of, there's good reason why some of the data that government holds on us, like our mental health records or something like that, isn't really shared across 500,000 civil servants and many more public servants beyond that, right? There's good reason for that. So the question is what are the various legal gateways and legal processes that means that you can or can't share data. At the moment, it is quite confusing, it's quite difficult. And it's not to say that this is what we're trying to do is not a dramatic loosening, but nor is it trying to just say we just need another 16 specific legal gateways to add on to the existing the thousands.
So what are the key things for
the key
the kind of data community? One is the 22nd of April.
Just 22nd.
22nd of April, know that, which is that, and there's a comment from the audience. Do you want to? Okay, but we'll come to questions in a moment. Okay.
Yeah.
But,
so the mission behind this, I think, if I just get sort of broader landscape, if we think about what can be done on data and what's the sort of model of data, what's the story of data in this new world, right? Well, you've got through the infrastructure work and a lot of transactional service work. If you're applying for a driving license, something that's sort of transactional and personal to you as an individual. Well, you've now got much greater visibility about that data, be able to change that data, be able to take that data through an API and share it with a rental company or insurance company, something like that. And I think we'll see a lot more of that as transactions, a degree of user control, visibility, and like consent as the sort of the foundations. But a lot of what government does isn't so straightforward transactions. There's externalities on people from a range of different, the easy one to click into is going to something like crime and fraud, right? You wouldn't have a model where you said, okay, I don't want my data to be shared around government to stop it. To stop me being a fraudster, right? It doesn't work in that way. So the question is where consent doesn't work as the model. Research is another area, right?
Yeah.
If you go, I don't want my data in research, you certainly end up with huge holes to send criminal justice system. Probably of particular types of communities as well, rather than just like randomly allocated. So what is the mechanism by which government should be able to share the data?
What are the big questions in the consultation that you'd like people to be responding on?
Well, let's think. So one of them is on the fraud and debt side, right?
Where should we strike that balance?
We should be able to do that or not do that. Yeah. There's a thing around on the some stuff we're doing is on research, so the administrative data research networks. Within that sort of confines of that space, the legal arrangements are in a different. They're set up differently. Well, what should be the rules about that? Should there be transparency about who's accessing that or not accessing that? How tightly do you define the ways in which the data should be depersonalized or not depersonalized? There's a danger that it's interesting. We had a discussion with the Royal Statistical Society the other week, and there was really sort of quite vocal feedback back to us to say, you're being overly specific about the way in which the data is depersonalized, right? Because the world's going to change in a few years' time. You need to set out something accordingly. We've been going through this process, the policy process on this stuff to try and learn to get this stuff right. And the feedback there was actually you need to be more specific in order to constrain the EU government from doing something appropriate. Right? Yeah. So we've got to make a call about that and people's feedback. Look, there's loads.
Just in a moment, is this one where there's a couple of people putting up questions? Is there anyone who'd like to ask a question right now? And then Tim, and then I think Tim first.
You've got things like a list of countries. That's a file. At the moment, what's the service?
That's exactly the point. Yeah, exactly that. So at the moment, in the old way, the Foreign Office has a web form of those countries alongside 14 other. But the fact that it wasn't provided as a service, it wasn't available ready, developer ready, right? Meant that people, friction went back into the system. People don't do that. So it's exactly that. Providing it as data as a service. Do a book download if you want to do a book download. That's how we work. But through APIs, to be able to make that system work. And of course, the point is then going back to the data is where should those taps be turned on to the wider world, right? And where shouldn't they, or halfway how you do that? But certainly something like countries is an easy one. You might see in the project there was a thing around trying to have an open address register. The open word is quite important as long-term people working on addressing data might recognise. So that's quite a difficult question because you went back on your original talks, like, well, yeah, let's do this open. It's there for the commons, but it's often not that straightforward. People have been previously raising income on the back of that in order to support the collection of that debt in the first place. It involves shifting the model, and it's not straightforward. It's not straightforward question, but not. It's fairly more straightforward.
Okay, was there another question? Anyone over here?
Can I?
Yeah, please ask questions. I think we're going to be interactive with this. Okay, towards the
I mean, just following on from data and the data as a service. I mean, it sounds like that's like a couple of generations on from what you would do if you've got. I presume, this is kind of systems integration and technical architecture planning at quite a high level that I would assume that in the public sector and in the government that they're quite far behind. So, how much of your work is essentially working alongside the government on systems integration and technical architecture planning, along with EDS or whoever they outsource their systems integration to, which is the top-down stuff, which is essentially a corporate ask, versus then the bottom-up movement building and the policy influencing. Because before you can actually get to data as a service, or before you can actually get to access provisions, you've got to have a whole level of kind of understanding about actually how the data is held and how the data is, for example, de-siloed or denormalized across obviously a very fragmented technical architecture.
Yeah, good question. So there's a long way to go. I'm not going to pretend that there isn't, but I have to say I think that the digital and technology capability of government is shifting and has shifted quite considerably. Right. So it's not an unusual conversation to have with technical architects across the pond to go, this is a way in which we should be building our systems to be able to access. The days of just going, I don't know, it's all complicated. I better not say who, big systems integrator will go and save the day at a price of £100 gazillion on a 30-year contract,
Right.
are approaching their end days. But I think what something that you said there is this is a weird combination of something that's deeply technical, indeed, architectural, but it's also something that goes right to the culture and policy of how government works. There's historically, I don't think it's any sort of secret that historically governments have worked on their own as sort of stovepipes, and then within that, particular services have worked in that way, not least because they've been outsourced to a systems integrator who's built that millions of times, right?
Exactly.
So one of the big things from government digital services is trying to think about a platform approach to thinking about government. So when we're doing something like verify or notify or pay, when you need to book an appointment, or you need to book an appointment, how hard can it be? It's the same booking appointment for a prison visit as it is to your driving license appointment. So trying to build those common components collectively as open source, almost in-house, or not necessarily always in-house, but under our control, so that then we can build the digital systems and technology systems that underpin that, digital services and technology systems that underpin that, is the big shift that's going on in government. And of course, there's a huge amount of value in terms of taxpayers' money, but also hopefully the quality of the service that people are starting to experience. And data's got to be part of that, which is why I'm in this government digital services as opposed to saying a random.
So one thing, just because I'm going to come back to the questions, I'm going to come back to the questions later on to keep us on time as well. Ross should start ready. Get it up. I have one question. So let's just move us on to maybe my final question, which is, so one risk I see of kind of a little bit of a shift is kind of open. We've kind of done it. We did open data. Yeah. It's happened. And going back, if I have to my dashboard, we haven't really done it. Yeah. And I think one of the things that going internally in all these services, and these even like running master data registries and services, I'm actually quite interested in government not running always the services for them. I mean, I know that maybe they need the master data integration, but that kind of model of, it's like, that I assume is obviously open data, the list of countries and stuff. Yeah. But there's a risk of we kind of go back to, because in a way I feel what's going on at the moment is things extremely come together. One is that government goes through probably cycles of major technology upgrade. Basically, I was thinking of an elastic band. It kind of extends out and then it snaps back. It's like 2004 or 5 was your 6 was the like DirectGov got built. and it was like, you know, a major upgrade from the late 90s. And then it's like 7, 8 years later, people go, oh, you don't know how to do mobile, and your websites look rubbish, and Direct Hub's terrible. And, you know, I don't know, 10 years from now, we'll all look at the GDS stuff and go, oh my God, you know, it got out of date. I don't know. So, but my question is, the open data stuff is systemic. It changes the way the government interacts with itself, and it interacts, and it's hard. In my sense, it's still a lot of social transformation. Because, for example, the reason this is bad is because the lady we've interacted with her like beers, who's wonderful, but just doesn't really get. She doesn't even understand why it matters.
Their system, right?
Well, she also doesn't get why CSV repeat structure is not a motivation. Versus the kind of government going, let's have our internal data science teams and build incredible technical architecture to give services. I just kind of, one of those seems to be traditional government upgrading itself technically. The other is a deep transformation about how that's with itself and interact. Information
I think so. Look, and the thing is, I think I'm on that, and I think I've was a real reason. But the point is, that's the space for open knowledge and others who have been, you know, holding people's feet to the fire on this thing and going, do not forget this thing. Now, my answer to it is, it's essentially that horrible dog food, right? It's at the moment that said person, you know, is like, well, this is an additional burden on top of the stuff that I've got to do, and you know, money's tight to government, so. What we not, the risk is that the extra stuff just doesn't happen. And I think, you know, Cabinet Office has not been necessarily first and foremost historically in making its own spending data available, though I believe we're now an extra push better in the league table, right? Yes, you know, it's sort of additional activity with the sort of small finance that you go and do. The answer to this thing is to get government using this stuff and valuing it. Because actually thinking of it as a collective resource of data, so that we can do our job better.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, and you know, it's the thing, so we've got these data science, like, oh, we'd like to do this data. Oh, but unfortunately, you know, the data is held in a ridiculous format. It's like, you know, it's not been updated since X. Oh, we'd love to do this, Minster, but unfortunately, the data's totally right? But oh, well, maybe we should fix the data and we should fix those systems. Not, and again, going back to yes, there is we need to keep paying attention to that human level process on top. So it doesn't matter people use that stuff. But the point is longer term, making that more systemic, more grounded in the technology and the digital infrastructure we have across government. And so it's available in there, and it's useful for us. But this is the sort of secret weapon on second phase open data. Is trying to make it so that it matters to us rather than it matters to some of us who happen to be interested in it and have roles to try and make that happen. Because we didn't do bad, actually. We did very well. We didn't do bad at all on that model, but I think that is clearly not going to, that's not the right answer.
Okay. So what is the model longer term? Is government eating it?
I think it's government being in a place where we've got data scientists or analysts, whatever, being hungry to the data. We've got developers that are like, well, you know, how do you expect me to build these digital services without you know, freely accessible, frictionless, high-quality data at my fingertips? They really serious. So the demand side is really important. And then the second bit is like, okay, on the core infrastructure, let's do that hard work. It may take us 5 years or 10 years to sort stuff out. I think we're making progress as ever. We're like build and do stuff. But you know, getting to the heart of getting government's core data infrastructure in a better state is not I'd say it's one of those things fabulously boring. It's just the wiring. But I think that's the place on which the innovation that we will see in the next decade.
That's great. Okay, I'm going to invite Francis up here. While we're just doing it, we're going to take a last jump for I'll let Francis wind his way in. And just check, is there anyone who had another question for me here? Second one from Tim, so I'm going to start with Sam over here and then come to this gentleman and then Tim if we have time. Otherwise, we'll have to grab a reason to stay and sort of just get all of it. Yeah. So, Sam, you had a question.
So you talked about doing more analysis in a variety of ways. Should systems know how their data is used?
I think so. I think it depends on the type of activity, which is why I go back to the point around what's the model transactional versus other types of use where there's an externality on others. You know, should an individual know that the police have looked up their record in order to see if they're associated with a crime or not?
it's a moot point, but you can see the line of argument that says that if you knew that the police were digging around, you might abscond or damage evidence or something like that. And I'm taking that almost. I understand that that's more an easier argument to make because it's on one side of the spectrum, if you like. At the other side of the spectrum, if I've, as you can do now, look at my driving license data and see what vehicles I can drive and if they've got my details right to take that data, yeah, you can see that. And we should do lots more of that. And I think actually in itself, that will be an interesting different dynamic between the city and the state. The interesting bit, the difficult bit is the sections in between. What does that mean for, the classic example of something like the Troubled Families Programme, right? So where there's a clear interest for those individuals, but also there are externalities on their families, on the neighbours, on the taxpayer. It's like a lot of government activities in that space where there are political arguments and other arguments around that. So I think I would hope we move to that model, but I think we should be mindful of the government is not just a transactional thing giver; it's something.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We'll get back with Francis, something I forgot, but I was reminded of this incredible space. It's all thanks to Ed and colleagues at Newspeak House. We're in Newspeak House. Really encourage you to sign up if you're interested. There's a wonderful membership program here. And huge thank you to Ed for allowing us to host the event here. It's a great space. So grab them after if you want to know more. Okay, over to Francis.
Do I need to talk to me at the microphone?
No, there's no this no.
Hello. Right, I'm going to tell you about the Humanitarian Data Exchange, which is a data hub that's used to share data in the humanitarian world. It's actually my favourite instance of CCAN. How many people know what CCAN is? Everyone will explain later on. So the Ebola virus is a pretty nasty thing. It kills 50% of people who get infected with it. And as you know, has been attacking West Africa for the last couple of years. The Humanitarian Data Exchange, the main kind of place of organisation is actually around crises, because that's when there's the most humanitarian response. Can't quite see the corner. It's called HDX, Humanitarian Data Exchange. The idea of it is to share data between different humanitarian organisations. So that's not just things like the World Food Programme or the World Health Organization. It's also charities, Save the Children, or the Red Cross. And it's also actually governments and private sector, things like pharmaceutical companies, and also academics. And what's unusual about CCAN is the main goal is for all those kinds of groups to put data in one place that then they get back out, all get it back out again. Although it's run by the United Nations, by the OCHA, which I'll tell you what OCHA stands for a bit later, it's not for just the United Nations, which I think is the most powerful, interesting thing about it. It's not an organisation publishing data, like going, I'm a particular agency, I'm publishing all my data. It's a group of people in a community, all publishing data collectively. So it's about the collaboration between them. One of the key things, there are a whole bunch of things that I'm going to explain in the talk, and you can see that it's quite pretty, and it has maps and numbers and charts, spark lines that get you into the data. So all these numbers, like the total number of deaths to Ebola, this was in April 2015, it's 10,714, but you can click straight through and get into the data. So it's both accessible immediately to anyone as to what that means, but also it leads you on to do more. This is about visiting a pharmaceuticals company. There are lots of companies making Ebola vaccines. And the story around HDX and this is that a pharmaceutical company, a private sector company in France, who had been contracted to make a vaccine, and got to the point where they needed to run clinical trials. And they needed a particular data set, which was this data set. And they're trying to get it out of the World Health Organization for a long time and hadn't managed to, for a while, and hadn't managed to get the right place within it. And then eventually, I think they found a search engine on HDX. And they rang us up going, oh, have you got that? Was brilliant. Have you got this other data set as well? A different one. And they were really excited. And what I like about that is it was unexpected. And they all thought that a private sector company would be interested in this data. It's about the prevalence of Ebola. It's actually Ebola virus cases by district. And it comes in different versions for different organised in slightly different ways in different countries. As you can see, a kind of fairly standard CCAN type page. This is it drawn on a map. And the point was that they needed the detailed data as a data set because they had to predict where there were going to be Ebola cases, but there hadn't been yet. So they could inject people with vaccine in advance of the disease as part of the trial. So it was really important they got quite granular data. And they managed to do it much quicker because it was available as open data. I'm going to step out slightly and explain the context of what I think is going on generally with this data thing. And I use this phrase digital paper. So digital paper is what we do too much in organizations and businesses, just generally in our use of IT at the moment. This is a Word document from 1946. Basically, documents are kind of largely unchanged. I'm spending, administering a EEF FP7 project at the moment. There's lots of emailing documents that are basically exactly like they would be written and posted 70 years ago. Mail is the same. The only reason everyone uses and understands email is because the metaphor of it is essentially the same as postal mail. You put an address on it, it goes to somebody. It's instant. You can attach things to it, but it's essentially the same metaphor as email. Most of our use of computers day to day is using metaphors from the previous non-digital world. Spreadsheets are a great example. This is a 1890s spreadsheet of a Columbia World Exhibition. Exactly the same as now. Cells don't add themselves up for the totals, they have to do that by hand, but otherwise it's basically identical to how we use spreadsheets now. Of course, you can pay a software engineer to millions of pounds to put your data set in an organized way in an Oracle database or whatever. And to them already. There's all the rest of the data, further down the organization, throughout the business, through the soul of the business, which is not yet in the form of data. And organizations don't know how to handle it as data. They're handling it by emailing each other things. That's the digital paper pain. So there are ScraperWiki, which I'll come to in a minute, which is the company that I'm a director of, that are kind of that digital paper problem. A piece of this is collaboration, that using the internet to get people to think about data more down the grass level of organizations and to share it more is what the Humanitarian Data Exchange is about. And it is run by the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, which is the UN agency that basically chooses where the money goes when there's a crisis. So when there's an Ebola outbreak or a Nepal earthquake and you give money to the DEC in the UK, the Disasters Emergency Committee, it's basically everyone meant to know about what's happening on the ground well enough to allocate resources to that. So it's fundamentally an organisation where what they do requires data. HDX is an instance of CCAN, which is the open knowledges. I remember Rufus talking to me about CCAN a long time ago now, maybe 13 years ago before it was made, that we needed tools to manage data. CCAN is an open source product for sharing data sets, basically. It's like you publish blog posts on WordPress and you publish data sets on CCAN, roughly speaking. But it's a bit more than that. It's got lots of extensions and plugins. It's a fantastic tool. It's important to use it because you don't want to reinvent the wheel. I'll come to that again a little bit later. ScraperWiki is a startup in Liverpool that I'm the head of product at, and we are, as I said, our mission is to help organise data as digital paper. We use both humans and robots together to do that, so artificial intelligence and getting people to get better at programming. And our role on HDX was to essentially run the product management and the technical engineering management. So we did do some scraping. Our company does lots of scraping, hence the name ScraperWiki. But we did that originally. Now, for the last couple of years, our role in the project has been essentially making it run well. We have lots of experience of data hubs and sharing of data and organising of data. We're based in Liverpool. Okay, I'm going to go to a second example of how HDX is being used, which is called who, what, and where data. So one of the important things about picking humanitarian data is because it's a specific topic area, you can do specific things for the kinds of data set that you have. And that's the really important lesson for me from HDX. This is a PDF which contains who, what, and where data before, in the pre-data HDX world. You can see it's kind of quite pretty and it's nicely laid out, but it's very bitty. So these you can't quite see, but they're things like pictures of books for literacy, taps for water. They say what function different agencies used to in that particular region of the country. So this is Somalia, and it says that in this region the food what's it called? Gosh, I don't even know how the acronym is. Well, the food program here, we're doing food aid there. And you can see you can't do much with that. You can't do much more than that. Was used to publish it. This one particular data set made by the Somalia NGO Consortium, which is the Who, What and Where data for Somalia. And what the team at HDX did is they added a special visualization. So when you uploaded a spreadsheet in the correct format for this very common data set that they need for every country, as soon as you put it in that format, the particular HDX version of CKAN spots that and automatically adds a visualization. And what's important here is it's specific. They actually turned off most of the fancy visualization features and extra plugins and extensions to CKAN, the very generic ones, and kept the interface as simple as possible, but added ones in that are specific to humanitarian data. So this, when you upload that spreadsheet, you immediately get a map of Somalia, and you can click on the individual regions, and you can see like top lists of which organizations are involved, and it's a much clearer presentation. And you can, of course, as well, just download it as a spreadsheet and work with it. So when you go into a particular region, you can see which the top NGOs are who've worked in that region, and what the top. So in this particular place, its livelihood is the top thing that the money's being spent on at the moment. So it's really really important to the HDX team's found to do that, and it has the extra benefit that you're then encouraging people to make, as Rufus and Paul were talking about earlier, how do you get the upstream data, the data that's entered, to be better, the original, like, really important raw data. And in this case, we're encouraging people by saying, if you upload it in a correct 3W format, then you get this visualization. So please put your spreadsheet with the correct columns and place it in the correct way. Third example is the Nepal earthquake, which suddenly struck one weekend. It was on a Saturday morning in UK time. And like I said, crises are the time when HDX is most used, simply because humanitarian aid happens most when there are crises. So a lot of the advantage of having a very organized data hub all the time is that there are already data sets there and ready. They're tagged by country, tagged by organization, they're already available. So within an hour of the earthquake happening, the HDX team had made a special page for the earthquake and started to make sure all relevant data sets were on there. And immediately they use all the standard things that they do when they make a special page. This is the crisis page for the earthquake. I think it's about a month into it. And it's got the key, maybe slightly over a month, maybe a week actually. It's got the key data set visualized at the top at the time, which was the what's the word for it? An earthquake. Yeah, the strength of the earthquake and the lines around the different strengths of it in different areas. So the darkest red part is where it was worst. And also the measure at that point, things like number of people killed, number of people injured. This is the number of internally displaced people camps, and this is the amount of funding. So both those are metrics of humanitarian response. So like problem and response. So immediately it's useful just anyway, and it also leads you into the data sets. And below there were 66 data sets very quickly, which were available. So it becomes a kind of a quick focal point. Quickly go on. The lesson here is another one about doing visualization. So much like the 3W visualization, there's lots of shape files, which are, who here knows what a shape file is? What how technical people are. A shape file is a file that contains geographical information. So it can be like lines or points. And it's a fairly standard file format, and it's used a lot. So it's produced by tools like ArcGIS, and it's used a lot in the humanitarian world. So on HDX, if you upload a shape file like here, then you automatically get a picture of it, which means a non-technical person would just use that data by just looking at the picture. at the map, and someone who wants to download it for using ArcGIS can quickly check it's the correct region and it's the correct data set before they download it. So it added specific, like a very high value to kind of user interface complexity value. I'm just going to quickly give a kind of partner example of HotOSM. This is the Humanitarian OpenStreetMap team. I'm going to guess there are people here who even volunteered for it. Anyone here who's volunteered for it? No? Well, there might be. This is actually in Kathmandu, people mapping internally displaced people on the ground during, like, just after the earthquake. It was by using the difference in satellite photos before and after, so you can look at a green before, as you can see where to say, and you can spot that is a camp, or you can spot the people who aren't even in a camp. So they, HotOSM have an extremely organised process now, because they've been doing this for quite a few years. They have a whole crowdsourcing tool which splits the area up into a grid, and everyone looks at one particular grid and goes and counts how many IDPs there are in it. So you remember the IDPs was one of the key data sets here, was the number of IDP counts. This is like considered a very important data set to the humanitarian world. And then that becomes automatically imported from OpenStreetMap, where the data is stored, into HDX, so that then the humanitarian world is more used to access that. I don't know how I've been speaking. Too long.
No, you're good. But I think it would be good to go for about another 2 minutes.
I don't have that long. So I'm going to very quickly go through lessons. I think HDX is my favourite CCAN instance, and I'm sure lots of you have been involved in lots of brilliant CCAN instances. But I want to mention the lessons because they're quite interesting. So very quickly, the lessons are do good UX design. So they used a company called Frog Design, which is super expensive. I thought was, how are they spending that much money on that? Actually, it was incredibly valuable because it stopped them going down a dead end in the user interface that would have cost even more money. And it also meant they ended up with a really good designer. So it just looks and feels like a good website. They use CCAN, don't reinvent the wheel, don't make your own data hub. Like, use the open source commodity one. It's very adaptable and configurable and flexible. They use ScraperWiki, so we had lots of experience making data hubs in the past, and we're good at making sure they manage the product well, and then they deliver it well. So, but both using Frog and using ScraperWiki, it's like pay for good expertise. It's not actually a cheap. In the end, it'll be worth even more money in this case, and potentially lives. Holding to measure look at numbers like some of these are less data than to watch, although it's really important, like literally is use one way to visualizations or again, the same shapefile visualization is instant, which I made this slide a year ago, much more topical now. Be like, if you let anyone add data, you get like some rubbish data. So they don't make it hard to add data. There's a very simple form you fill in. It's really, really simple. And then they check who you might be in your organization. It means that there's enough process data sets that you can rely on being the organization. It says that you can rely on them caring, being a professional who cares about quality. That does matter. The quality does matter. Getting professional people to work does matter. Sometimes you can use the crowd. That's a good way of getting accessibility. But you can do something in between. You can add a light layer to protect alterations. Finally, so they make pages for specific organizations to sort of make it look good to their own management. So this is an index for risk management who has a data set page and all the data sets listed on it, but they added a special visualization about risk management and made it look nice. And the visualization was actually made by the American Red Cross. So you I think a really important thing we don't do enough is give credit to the actual organisation producing the data. And because HGX is a platform across lots of organisations, it fundamentally does. And it feels to one of the other person like the World Food Programme who has their own page on it, it feels to them like they made their own page with their data sets on, they have some ownership of it. But yet at the same time, it's also part of the shared collection of data sets. 10 seconds. In the future, they're going to work on more mapping tools for people to make layers and take maps, and they're building lots of data labs on the ground where they actually work with people in Kenya and the new one's only in Dakar this year to help them, to add data sets from the actual people working in countries.
That was brilliant.
So,
I ended up almost booking too many great speakers tonight. So if there are, I'm actually going to move straight on here. So we're getting to the slightly shorter talks now. There was two big ones to start with. And what we're going to do is it's a reason to grab Francis and have a chat with him.
yeah, if you want a sticker, a scraper you stick for your laptop,
Please come and
if you're interested in either humans or robots making your data better,
I haven't all of them online.
you want all of them?
Okay, I don't.
You brought more.
You gave it all to me. Okay, thank you so much, Francis. Okay.
Oh, I should tell my computer.
Oh, take you on your computer, yes. Of course, I would happily have that too. Very good, wonderful. So, here we go. It's my pleasure to introduce Danielle Ornell, who's going to speak. Partly, I'm trying to also with these, it can get a little bit geeky if we talk about open data all the time, and even a little bit, not quite as exciting. So I've tried to also have a mixture. This is a talk with a little bit of a difference. We also, as I said, have the drones coming later, which is kind of related to open data in some way, mapping, I don't know, openness, but I thought. So over to Danielle, who's going to talk about a really interesting project about memory and digital artifacts.
That's right, yes. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Right.
Do you have anything to, is it
I
not?
do. Well, I do later. I just.
Okay, find out. Great. You want me to do anything, just let me know.
Right, so just a bit of context. I'm the co-founder of IOTA, and what we do is that we try and find new ways to understand group behavior and potentially to influence it. In order to do this, we use a plethora of technology. We use mainly text-related analysis, so it's semantic technology, large text analysis, narrative analysis, machine learning, etc. But then also another bunch of stuff, including social neurobiology, affect computing, and just behavioral analysis. So we have a bunch of clients, and we also have our own R&D kind of facilities where we create little projects and little experiments. And one of those experiments is something I want to show you today and ask you what you think. So it's called 9OBS, 9 objects. And the reason why we started doing this is because we're not really pleased with the models that exist so far in terms of really understanding human being on a large scale. I'll give you two examples. One example is something which I'm sure you've all come across in job interview, and that's personality tests, or psychometric tests, as they call them. So those are the tests that tells you if you're like an introvert or an extrovert or judgmental or open to new experiences, etc. There's a fundamental problem with that test, and that's people are dynamic, but the test is not dynamic, and therefore, if you take the test in the morning or in the evening, or if you're in a good mood, or if you're hungover, you just get completely different results. Right? So that's one example. Another example is the way people define, I would say, audiences in industries like advertising. So I would be like women, 25, 35, living in London, social economic status BC, and that might have just looked for a sofa. Okay, so that's like who I am right now. So those two examples, what it shows is that it's quite easy to take a complex human being and then to reduce it to a set of very simple parameters. And so once you have the parameters, it's very difficult to create a complex human being out of them again, right? So at IOTA, we think that there's a need for just better parameters that are deeper and maybe more qualitative and softer to really grasp what is a human psyche. Right? So, 9OBS specifically, that would be nice if I had like a website. How do you connect to that?
You can connect to the internet. What do you mean connect?
No, just connect.
I mean, get this to show up. I think we just want to go to display preferences.
Right.
Why don't you then you can keep talking around trying.
Yeah, that's great.
I mean, have that.
Okay, so, right. So we are.
Bingo, I think.
Yeah.
Right, done it, right? Great.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Right. So anyway, we are complex creatures. We're irrational. We're flawed, and we're dynamic. And with all this super cool data out there and technological capability that we're developing lately, it would be quite nice to find a complex and dynamic way to understand human beings. So this is a project that is trying to do some of that. It's based on a set of theories, mainly in coaching and in CBT, which is a cognitive behavioral therapy. So the kind of thing that you use if you have post-traumatic disorder. And what it's trying to do is to help you find in your life the moments that were so influential, that made so much impact on you, that it changed you forever. I think that you might be a little bit familiar with this idea. So not that I know about any particular trauma that you may be, but so those moments can be traumatic, they can be ecstatic. Yeah, they can be traumatic, they can be ecstatic, they don't need to be negative. But there's a bunch of those moments, and those made you who you are. So you've grown up with siblings, you speak the same language, you have the same parents, you have the same, I don't know, taste or cultural perspective, and yet you're very different people. Of course, there's genetic and environmental reasons for that, but there's also just the way we interpret experiences, right? So this is trying to help you find those experiences. There's not a lot of them in each person's life. There's maybe 9 or 10 about that. And we're not used anymore to think about them because we're just used to, share information all day and, curate our identity and send pictures around and really fearing missing out. And so we're not used anymore to this kind of introspective process. But the truth is that it could be quite nice to take the time to do that once in a while. So, because we're not used to it, what 9UPS does is that on the one hand, it helps you, process the idea that you have to go and find those 9 moments in time when something happened to you. But also it uses literary characters and cultures to help you process and understand what those events are. So you can use them as inspiration, and you can compare yourself to literary figures, right? Right, so let me just show you some stuff. So that's a mock-up, okay? There's only a few of the functionality that works there, but I think it will show you some of the semantic kind of work that we're doing. Oh, that's quite ugly. How do I make that smaller?
Let me make, what do you mean, the screen smaller?
I mean, the screen, actually, the way it's presented on that screen.
That's unfortunately just because I think the resolution of this monitor versus your one.
Oh, God.
But we know we will forgive you. The ugliness does not represent your site, but simply the constraints of this
Okay,
projector.
please don't. Which do you think you should?
Yes, push plus next. Yeah.
No,
You see
where
at
is
the
it?
top, next to the left of 9UPS, the green one. The green one. No.
Green one?
That one.
Yeah, this is far better. Cool. All right, so those are a few examples of stories that people have uploaded. We used, as I said, a lot of literary reference, so we took a lot of text and analyzed it and tried to extract stuff from it. So what you have here is a bunch of stories. I think you might recognize this one. That's one, that's one moment in this person's life. That's a bunch of tags that have been generated from this specific extract from the book. There's some comments that you can add to it as well. And then you can empathize or not empathize with the story. By the way, we're not really interested at this stage to turn this into a social network, and therefore there's only empathize. So, if you want to socialize, and if you want to, create your identity, there are plenty of places you can do that. This is specifically for your own personal kind of journey. Right?
Love it. She has PTSD and depressive tendencies.
Definitely PTSD and depressive. Okay, so this is something we can talk about later, but basically there's a bunch of you know, bunch of ways that we're analyzing the text. Some of it can be quite easily generated automatically. Some of it will need community help. And we're using a lot of fan fiction extracts, so we hope that they will help us analyze some of the characters. So that's one example. It's weird. It's a bit weird. Okay, we just go back from here. Another example. Okay, you might recognize this one. Okay, this person is a really bad circumstances. Anyway, so that's another example. Those are all examples from the literature. Here's an example from like the real world. This one. So that's like a user-generated one, yeah, that you could compare in the future with the actual, with the literary figures, the cultural figures. And of course, you can upload your own stories, so that's pretty simple. You think of one moment in your life that's particularly interesting and that really probably changed the way you react to things and the way you cope with problems or with non-problems. You think of one object that represents that moment, then you upload it. You can choose, you know, when in your life that thing happened. You can choose what kind of emotion this created. This one. So, by the way, those are based on a new theory, which is a parrot, and it's in process. It's going to become far more evolved over time, as we also learn from how people use the way to describe emotion when they enter a new story. Right. So that's pretty much what there is now for this. Pretty simple. So, what else would you want to say with that? Right, we use a lot of open knowledge resources in order to populate some of these things. So, Open Humanities, Open Shakespeare, that kind of things. We're using a lot of Wikia and fan fiction. We're, of course, adding our own data, and we'll be very happy to share it with anyone in the future as it gets bigger. And ultimately, what we want to do with this is to create a new type of connection between personal narrative, emotions, and psychological states, which is really one of the things that's lacking when you try to understand who are those people that we should sell stuff to or just empathize with, right? So it's just, there's a pilot there. If you want to keep updated about the progress, just leave your address and we'll send you a message. And yeah.
Thank you very much. I think this is fascinating. I think it's one can kind of imagine at some point when people have enough also of their lives online, for good or ill, you can actually maybe, we'll be told this was the moment you changed. Your Facebook posts became different. Okay, is Joe still here, or is Joe not? Yes, so come on up. This is gonna be really fast because we're doing the last two talks here. So I'm gonna invite you up here with me. This is a short talk. Just gonna work. That's a very good response. Quite accurate. We will soon. Here we are. Friction status. So together. So Joe, I'm going to introduce, is my colleague. Now that I'm non-executive Open Knowledge, but a colleague at Open Knowledge International. You want to introduce yourself very quickly?
So yeah, I'm Joe. I've been at Open Knowledge for a couple of years, and I am currently managing the Friction Status project, which we're now going to talk about. We're
going to tag team this one. It's one we didn't quite totally prepare in advance. So first of all, this is the Frictionless Data new website, or the website frictionlessdata.io, if you want to go visit it. And it's about lightweight standards and tooling to make efforts to get, share, and validate data. But basically, to create high quality data, something we've talked about a lot, and based, I guess, on, in my case and in Joe's case, but I started kind of in this stuff about 10 or 11 years ago, and if you like, kind of that Zen sense in which you constantly take things away is how you become more masterful. This was the attempt to take things away from what we've already been doing. So I'm just going to kind of give a brief, go for it.
Okay, well, I was just going to say that from my perspective coming into this. I don't have a deeply technical background like Weeklys does. So frictionless data is as an idea, which we're going to talk about in a bit, it's something that I can get really excited about and like want to get behind, even though I don't know the nuts and bolts of it. So for me, that's what's really powerful about it.
And at this point, I'm not going to talk about any of the technical detail, but the idea mainly here. So one is really quickly, generally we want to reduce time to insight. Paul talked about it, we want to reduce time to insight in government. Issue is that a lot of time there's friction in getting, using and sharing the data that we want, right? You sit there and you think you want to know something and it's hours later. I'll just give you one example. Is there less snow in the Alps? One point last year, when I finally went skiing, I would love skiing, I never got to go for a long time, and there was no snow. and it was like the worst snow in the Alps for like 20 years. Like, is it getting worse in the Alps? And I was there, I'm a data geek, I can't ski, so I'm sitting there in like on my computer trying to work out, where can I get snow stats from? It's actually pretty painful. So there's a lot of friction. And so the kind of our goal is to create insight. But our sub goal is to get more frictionless data. That's like the sub goal, right? What we really want to do is learn things about the world. But right now, we're going to focus on frictionless data. And the key part here is analogy with logistics. Do you want to give that a shot? Lauren will argue about here. Yeah, so just one thing here that we really get, right, which is just to remember this, is logistics. Think about shipping stuff around, right? Shipping stuff around, like your phone. Your phone got made probably, if you have an iPhone, by a company called Foxconn. Foxconn has over 1 million employees. It has the most employees of any company in the world. It's based in Taiwan, well, it's incorporated in Taiwan and made in China. Fabricate your phone, got on a truck, went up to the shore, it got on a ship with some help, and then it got unloaded from the truck, and it went to a retail store and you bought it, right? Now, one of the things you don't realize is imagine we were back in like 1600. This didn't want to work. Even imagine just as a thought experiment, we had the kind of transport infrastructure of the 1600s, but we could make iPhones. This would not function because the cost of shipping something from China to here would be like 10 times the cost of making the iPhone, right? It's actually, in the old days, one of the reasons famines happened wasn't because there wasn't food in different parts of England, for example, but because it cost so much to ship it from like London to, Northumbria. Shipping costs have been huge. And shipping so this part here particularly has been a big deal. Now just think of data. Data has kind of logistics. Really, you're not that interested in logistics. Logistics is one of those words when you hear it, you fall asleep, right? And for a good reason. However, it is kind of what makes it possible for you to have an iPhone. Some people here are denying this and they get very excited by logistics. We'll talk about that later. But my point is data logistics is the same. You don't give a monkeys. What we want is like, do you remember how excited we were seeing all those HGX visualizations? We want to be over here doing analysis. However, someone had to collect the data. They had to clean it up. They had to store it on a website, maybe like a government website. They had to import it into your tool. And then you got to draw a diagram. And often, as in the old days, this is probably 90% of the work sometimes, right? Okay, so this is, you want to add something? No.
Well, I was just going to add one more thing, which is that if you're involved in one part of this, your job or what you're interested in, then you might not be interested in the whole thing. So you want that thing to be as easy as possible.
You don't care about all of it.
Yeah.
You don't care about all those trucks, right? So my point is there's lots of sources of friction in this thing. You can actually use this as a nice kind of thought about like where is there friction in your data logistics chain? It's hard to find stuff, it's not open, it's structured poor, blah, blah, blah. Okay, the point is, this is why you can tell I'm not really a data visualization expert. This is my tree map. My point is, if you just thought about friction in that chain, you could maybe argue there's a lot of it is like what open knowledge spent a lot of time on is like legal barriers. It's not open. It's not open. It's not online. I never can get hold of it. It's just, I never even get started on logistics chains. It's never been put on the government website. But then there's other stuff. There's data quality. And this is my completely made up, but kind of roughly accurate, I think, proportional sense of problems here. Data quality, interoperability. By data quality, I mean it's just rubbish. Like, it's like they have 75 different formats in 65 files. But interoperability is just stuff like, oh my God, wasn't it great? I got all this spending data, but it doesn't use the ID of the company, so I can't do stuff like connect it to any information about companies. Like, I've got this government spending, but I can't connect it to the company's database. And then hard to find tool integration. So the thing is, we can't address all of them. And so I'm going to completely, creationist data ignores all of this. Open knowledge spends lots of time on this, but we're not interested. What we're interested in is more on the right-hand side here. So we're going to focus. And the point is to say, we're going to focus on this kind of load-unload here. The onloading and offloading. And the analogy is on the load-unload of shipping, right? Because the story I'm going to say is that in shipping, in the old days, which itself was a big deal in international trade, 80% roughly of the cost of shipping a good from one country to another was loading and unloading it off the vessel at either end. It was huge, right? And it was also pretty dangerous, and it was also slow. I spent a lot of time in ports and so on. Lots of bananas. Now, what they came up with, this was cargo loading around 1955. It was manual, slow, and costly, and it was dangerous. People sometimes died. And they came to this, containerization. There were other social changes that went on, like Steve Jobs didn't exist so much anymore, so they left. But in data, there's no one, we don't have to worry about that. We're not putting people, there are not like vast kind of bunch of like data wranglers out there who are going to put out of a job too much, really. And I just want to give you a sense of impact of this, right? I mean, poor Francis is already getting into AI. He's ahead of the game, right? He's not really worried about being obsoleted. He's building like the super loader. Just to give you a sense, right? This is the same year. This is the first year that there's containerized ship, the SSR-DLX. Just in the year it happened, the loading cost per ton has gone down about, if I can do my maths right, about 30 times. And this is full containerization. That is about, not quite 8,000, but about 7,000 times increase in performance from containerization, right? Now, my argument is kind of simple, which is data is shipping pre-containerization. Data looks like this. You almost need, this is a good test for the new AI move that Threadbook is going on for. This is ASCII, by the way. What's good is ASCII, but this is like merged cells in ASCII, if you can work out. Like that employee goes across multiple columns. This is pretty tough to unparse. I mean, you have to do it by hand. This is actually, by the way, US Bureau of Labor statistics on unemployment. So the point is, and the story here, the first Fisher's data is a vision, and within it there's some project. And one of the first is data packages. And one of the core idea, which is containerization. It's data containerization. And what the point of that is, and I was going to say, is kind of simplicity. Steel boxes aren't really like that. Like they weren't like, whoa, what was the big deal was lots of people using steel boxes, and the steel boxes enable tooling. Right? If I were just to fast forward a moment, this is exciting in this picture in a way. It's not the boxes, but this big crane. I mean, obviously, anyway, the crane is a lot cooler than the boxes, but it's actually, the boxes are just an enabling of a crane, right? And so, but the thing also about data containerization comes back to all of my experience and other people's experience, is this kind of Zen simplicity. The principles, like, not that I don't, I have a place in my heart for linked data. It's getting a little bit smaller over time. But basically, it's not that simple. If people know what I mean by like RDF or linked data or many other stuff. The thing about the data package is incredible simplicity, like a steel box. Really simple. Web-oriented existing tools. So there's something about the principles. And I'm going to hand over here a little bit. We've got kind of the minor innovation, the data package in the middle. The big thing is it decouples stuff. At the moment, if anyone does any data stuff out there, you'll know that in whatever your tool of choice is, they have written an incredible library of import tools. I don't know if people use Python Pandas or R, but they've just written like endless freaking libraries to import like SQL and CSV like this and HDFS and whatever. How do name it? They've got some. But everyone has to do it. So at the moment, every source, every tool on the right kind of writes its own import stuff. One of the things about data packages is like, that's what those guys loading bananas. Like you loaded bananas one way on the ship and you loaded coffee a different way and you loaded cars a different way. With a container, you put it in the container and you load the container. That is the point. So it's focused particularly on tabular data and geodata at the moment. And it's the Zen idea. Steel boxes are Zen, they're simple. But also CSV. CSV has a beautiful simplicity. Far underrated in my view. And it's about Is there anything you want to say about the tools? Because that's what the focus of the efforts in making some advertising was looking for people.
I think so. I've been kind of like put on the spot.
And you're put on the spot there, you kind of weren't sure when it was going to happen.
So we want to like do things that make it as I'm sorry for the
I'll give you hand over to it. Well, I think the thing I've kind of been such a I got so excited that the point is about the tools. So to make one point about the project at the moment, this is where we'll conclude in our presentation, is it's about the tools. So one of the things, this is called goodtables.io, there's various others. Data package itself, which basically you can go and rebuild spec. It's a tiny little wrapper around your data. Metadata spec, been adopted by DataGov UK and others. But what really makes it work is the stuff, the tooling you can build around it. And it's also a play, like the simplicity. So this is, for example, the data validator. But we are also looking, as part of the project, thanks to support from the Alfred Sloan Foundation, we have a bunch of some funding at the moment to support people, both ourselves, but we're really looking for other people. Like if you were like, hey, I really want to have a data packages connector into, well, R we've kind of got done, but you name your language, a Go library for working with data packages, or you want to import them into Google Docs or into Excel or whatever it is. We have some support for that, and we'd love to talk to people because it's all about the tools. So we want data package kind of connected, if you like, with the libraries in every language. The beauty of them is, by the way, they do have graceful degradation, as they are generally like CSV with some metadata. Even if you don't understand data packages at all, you can still use the data. It's one of the things that's very attractive. Graceful degradation is attractive, just like progressive enhancement for the web designers out there, but the other way around. So, frictionlessdata.io, come and talk to Joe.
Come and talk to me.
And come and build tools if you're interested.
Yeah, please do. I look forward to talking about it later. Enjoy it.
Our last and final thing before we go for beer and coffee or whatever it is that you require. Do you want this laptop? Or have you got
We've got our own laptop.
Wonderful.
How
The moment we've all been waiting for.
much do we have?
Well, as long as you can keep the audience entertained.
Okay.
Maximum of 10 minutes, probably. 5 minutes if you're doing well.
Okay.
I've overrun my projected time schedule.
That's okay. So I'm Ben, I'm Ben Smither. I am the co-founder of SOAS. We do unmanned aerial systems, drones.
I'm Sununu.
Yeah, Sununu, the other co-founder, of course. And what we do, we build drones, we fly drones, we film with drones, and effectively, what it all comes down to is we capture data from drones. Now, when we first invited us to come talk, to you guys, open knowledge, open data, I said, sure, not a problem. What do you want us to talk about? And to be honest, what I'm really interested in knowing is, in regards to the technology of drones and how this relates to what you guys do, what is useful? What is useful to share with you to say what we see is going to happen, what we currently are doing with drones in regards to data. And we have a few ideas as well, but I think it would be interesting to see what thoughts other people have, because to be honest, we have the technology, we have the tools, but how is this useful? And and in fact, I'll open up now. I also get Rufus to contribute, but if anyone wants to
Just one question. Do you know how to actually do this with HDMI? Something we didn't check just beforehand. You've got it.
Yeah.
Looking promising. One second. Yeah.
So I mean, what I can do, while they're waiting for that to load up, I can say some of the things we have been doing, perhaps, which would be useful. So one of the most interesting areas we find with drones is the way we are able to capture images, like Google Maps might do, for example, but obviously at high resolution and at a lot more regular effect. Get a wide map, take those data points, and we can convert them into 3D models. We can pull data, so farming data, for example, we can tell how much chlorophyll is in farmland, in crops, and things like that. And what we actually find when we capture data, usually it's for private companies, we have this huge amount of data. We don't actually know what to do with it. And we're talking about terabytes of data here. This is actually an example of, which one's this?
This is the property we just mapped recently. So recently we got permission to map a property using drone tech, which is sort of more efficient than using light aircraft or satellite data. So what we did is we took over 1,000 images across the site, and with that we can create a very high resolution 3D map of the terrain. So with all these images, we put it into Pix4D, which is a great software that parses all the images together, and it compares pixels across all the images, and each image is GPS tagged. For each one of these dots, which are over 100 million, it references all the other photos. So you can create a very dense point cloud very quickly just using images that are GPS tagged. So you can very quickly, in a disaster situation, for example, map a whole area within a matter of minutes and come up with a map and load it up into one of these softwares and get that data to people that need it really quickly. So you can pinpoint where a makeshift hotel, makeshift hospital might be, or where a bridge has collapsed. So that's something we can now do really easily and quickly with drones. With this data set in particular, it has so many images because I wanted to capture a high level of detail. But if you just want to map an area, you can quickly do it with a lot less images. We wanted to get like really, really detailed. The whole idea with this is to 3D print it. So it was create data that was really rich information.
Yeah. And what I want to add is, I mean, the level of accuracy in this is, I mean, we can get down to the accuracy down to a couple of centimeters. So you can actually take measurements across, wide, it can give you body measurements. So if we're talking about an earthquake where perhaps chasms open, something like that, you can see how deep it is, you can see it, as long as you can visually see it.
So yeah, with this, you can basically create 2 points. And over here, you can align it a little bit better. So even if you haven't got it quite right in your point cloud, you can align it, and it gives you exactly how high that point might be in space. So
That's very cool. Is there anything else? Do you want any other one you want to tell us about?
Bletchley Park. They had a couple of buildings that I think really run down. They hadn't seen it was very hard to survey it.
It was kind of overrun, it's quite hard to access. They had whole health and safety issues there. So they put us in to just do a quick scan. And I think we'll show you the model, but to give you an idea, the amount of time the drone was in the air for was between 5 to 10 minutes.
So I guess these are the images of. So these are just as it flies over, you're just getting top-down images, and with that, you can create high resolution maps. Go to management. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So with that, with those just top-down images, you can create height field maps and force color maps that can be used for all kinds of stuff. You can capture data up to you guys. Yeah, you can do it anywhere, and it's also really handy in when there's been like landslides, you can compare the before and after and see how much is actually collapsed by. And flood prevention, so you can create like maps in height, and you can kind of predict where it might be flooding. Like deep blue is lower, and deep red is much higher. Yeah. That's the kind of stuff we can do.
Cool. Yeah.
That's really great. I'm also going to be back probably the next time for a more extended version with video. Particularly if you're a guy who's going to Dubai, and I know you did a great project with the Senegal. Maybe just very mention briefly the Senegal project. What was that?
The Senegal project was interesting.
Who was it with?
It was for the UN, the COP21 Global Climate Change Conference, and we commissioned to do a virtual reality 360 film based on the pioneering project they're doing out there, where they're planting a wall of trees to stop the desert from encroaching into farmland, into climate change.
They're doing it all the way from literally from East Africa to West Africa, a whole line across the continent of trees to stop the desert coming in.
We're commissioned to build a drone that can film with 7 cameras at the same time, so we've got like a full VR experience. And now it's available free on YouTube if you have VR headsets.
I think it's the Great Green Wall.
The Great Green Wall.
Check it out, it's cool. It's only about 5 minutes long, but it's good. Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. That was brilliant. Okay, well, thank you everyone so much for coming this evening. Thank you so much to our speakers. Gave very generously their time. We're around for a little while now. I don't know if we can, and I also want to say a huge thank you. Just, do you want to stand up? Nick and Yeba. Do you want us to come up? And Joe, just come on up to the front here. So, Nick, Yeba, and I grab you guys. These are my colleagues who helped put today together, and also helping involving the next event. Yeah. I did say this man is we've had a whole stream of the event, so if there are people want to have it, we'll have it afterwards. And also the next day, which is June 9th at 7 p.m. here again. So put it in your diaries if you enjoyed this evening. And if you also, guys, if you're interested in speaking or you have something you'd like to talk about, we are really interested to hear from people who want to talk about stuff. And the other thing I really ask, one of our great ambitions, and we are, we're getting there, is to invite people who are not into open information. I think you'd say tonight that there was a load of stuff that people would find interesting, I hope, whatever their background. So one of our real goals is to engage people kind of on the edge, if you like. Maybe they're working in healthcare. Last time we had a great talk about mapping fast food outlets and obesity, which could be relevant to anyone working in local government. Whatever, we're really fascinated to have people coming along and also having people talk who aren't massively in open data, but are interested in the way maybe data can be used in society or so on, or information can be used, and the politics and so on to that. So thank you all very much. We're going to now, I don't know whether we can grab drinks. You got a question? Yeah.
I think it's a very quick observation. I think we're trying to draw some of this together. So my name's Karen Christensen.
Please, Karen.
Which is just around, I don't know if I'm excited or slightly scared by this observation, which is underlying the FCO data set and underlying the work you did, and kind of intrinsic to the frictionless stuff, or maybe it's a commentary on that, is a standard that we helped develop when I was at Publish What We Fund, called the International Age Transparency Standard, which is why the FCO could finally publish something for once in their semi-existence, and why HGZ is functional, because there's actually data feeds. And that took 4 years to develop. Everybody told us it was impossible, but it is actually one of the few things that facilitates friction. I wouldn't say it's frictionless, but it's probably one of the lowest friction things. And yet we still only got 25% of data out there. The Publish What We Fund Index is launched today. So as I say, I'm not sure whether it feels like 4 years of my life were vindicated and were useful, and a lot of very boring meetings that meant you guys can actually do what you're doing. But, and this is maybe a much bigger question for next time, which is, if we've got to get that level of data standardization set underlying it before we can deliver on frictionless, then maybe we actually need to go and look much harder at how we did IATI, because I didn't realise, I've only come to realise how relatively unique it is, because it's across that hundreds of different actors, and it's got some huge problems, and that means learning from some fairly major structural errors that I think are embedded in it as well. Anyway,
it's a great point about social versus technology. It's easy to invent new languages. It's hard to get. We still don't speak Esperanto.
And Publish What We Fund basically humiliates donors on a yearly basis, and that's currently probably the single largest driver of use. So OCHA came 37th in the ranking today, not that much better than China and UEA. That's going to be quite embarrassing to OCHA. But it's probably right now going to drive more use than what you were talking about, which DFID is one of the few agencies that actually does use its own data, and it's got some of the highest data quality because of that.
Right.
I'll shut up.
That's fantastic. And we're all here. We're here for a while, so if people want to chat, I think there may even be some, I don't know, if there were beers of some kind earlier, and please make a contribution to them though, because they're not, no one yet sponsors these talks. But thank you all so much for coming, and I really hope you'll get to come to the next one in June. And if you want to get involved with Open Knowledge England, please just come and talk to either any one of us four. Thank you all.